confused. Who was Gowon second in command?
It was a naval officer. I'll try to get his name.
Okay.
Yeah,
Well,
I'll try to get it now. I'll get the Supreme Military Council setting of 1966 July. I'll try to get it now.
okay. All I know is that history is very important in any country that wants to survive. You understand me?
Yeah.
And as far as I've known, in every leadership or every leader in this country, you understand me? There is no perfect leader. Perfection belongs to God. When you want to claim perfection, you fail. And God is a jealous God, as far as I know.
Yeah.
So if you want to compare yourself with God, you will definitely fail. Apart from Nigerian leadership or any leadership you find yourself, you want to compare yourself with God, you will fail. God loves people that humble themselves. You understand me? What am I trying to say? We are still in this problem. The problem we are into, that is not the priority of Almighty God in heaven. Our own priority is leadership. How to overthrow or how to take away a leader or whatever. Is that what we should be discussing? Every radio station and television station is discussing of transmission of results to whatever they call it. They are not talking about the killing. The human beings that are being killed, innocent human beings that are being killed in this country. We are not discussing it as we are discussing transmission of results to whatever they are saying in every radio station and television station. How do we get the country right by this way? Is God happy with Nigeria? With all manner of killing in this country? That is the question I throw to everybody. It's a living human being. Whoever you say you serve, is the Almighty God in heaven happy with us? With all manner of killing in every country, in every state? And we are not talking about it. As we are talking of transmission of results, transmission of this. We are playing with Almighty God. We are playing with Almighty Allah. Even this, what technology has ever worked in this country? You send money to somebody through bank or whatever, they said it has not dropped. That is money, not to talk of ordinary paper, ordinary election paper that is called vote of 15.
Bob, thank you very much. You
Nigeria,
made
you
your
have to
point.
think. You have to think.
Bob, thank you very much. Thanks a lot, Bob. You made your point. Let's look at the Supreme Military Council under General Yakubu Gowon. You requested for that. The Supreme Military Council, first of all, consisted of the most senior officers who directed national policy and military operations during and after the Nigerian Civil War. It included service chiefs, military governors, and top administrative officers. Their collective decisions shaped Nigeria's unity, military structure, and post-war reconstruction. Now, Yakubu Gowon was the head of state of Nigeria between 1966 and 1975 and the chairman of the Supreme Military Council. He led the country through the Civil War and tried to rebuild national unity afterwards. His government expanded the number of states to reduce regional tensions, and he promoted the idea of keeping Nigeria as one nation. Is that a call? Okay. Then you asked who was the second in command. Joseph Edet Akinwale Wee. Yes. Joseph Wee was a senior naval officer who served as Chief of Naval Staff and later Chief of Staff at the Supreme Headquarters. Yeah, he worked closely with Gowon and was one of the most influential figures in the military government. His loyalty and administrative discipline helped stabilize the armed forces during a turbulent period. So he was, you heard there, he was the Chief of Staff, Supreme Headquarters at the time. He was the number 2 man during Gowon's administration as head of state, to the best of my knowledge. After General Aguiyi-Ironsi was murdered, the next in line was supposed to be Brigadier General Babafemi Ogundipe, but northern officers and northern soldiers refused to take orders from him, and he now decided to be a very wise man. He departed sharply to the United Kingdom, and there Gowon ratified his position as the Nigeria's High Commission, head of Nigeria's High Commission to the United Kingdom, and he strongly and stoutly defended Nigeria's policy during the war period. He was a very brilliant Yoruba officer that is talking about Brigadier General Babafemi Ogundipe. Now, let's leave there and go back to what we're doing. Yes, we talked about the 1979 Constitution. We talked about yes, the 1979 Constitution to avoid the pitfalls of the first Nigerian Republic. The 1979 Constitution mandated political parties which were required to register uh, in at least two-thirds of the states. In addition, it established a cabinet of Nigeria, with each state having at least one member. This gave a federal character to the nation. Then the 1993 Constitution was established. It was established as the third republic of the third Nigerian Republic. This constitution was supposed to return democratic rule to Nigeria, but it was never fully implemented. The military still controlled the country until May of 1999. Remember that democratic process took shape that produced one of Nigeria's fairest elections ever, that brought in MK Abiola as president, but he never assumed office because the then head of state, General Ibrahim Badamasi Babangida, refused to hand over power. He didn't just refuse. The election was uh, annulled. So Abiola never became president. So the military controlled the country until May of 1999 when it handed over power to an elected president, this time Olusegun Obasanjo, who was head of state, or should I call him president, as a military man between 1976 and 1979. So he was making his second missionary journey to State House. Then the 1999 Constitution created the Fourth Nigerian Republic, a federation with democratic rule. It defines the national capital, 36 states and their capitals, and 774 local government areas within Nigeria. It establishes the legislative, executive, and judicial branches of government and details their duties and the separation of powers between the branches and federal and state governments. Nigeria's legislative powers are vested in a National Assembly with two chambers, a Senate and a House of Representatives. The Constitution gives the National Assembly the power to make laws for peace, order, and good governance. The Constitution outlines the individual's fundamental rights, including life, liberty, dignity, privacy, freedom of expression, religious freedom, and security from slavery, violence, discrimination, and forced service in the military. It also defines the person's rights to a timely and fair trial if arrested, and the presumption of innocence. Nigerians also have the right to own immovable property anywhere in Nigeria, a right of assembly and freedom of movement. The Constitution also protects four laws: the Land Use Act, the National Securities Agencies Act, the National Youth Service Legislation, and the Public Complaint Commission Act. In January of 2011, President Goodluck Jonathan signed three amendments to the Constitution, the first modifications since it came to use in 1999. In 2017 and 2023, further amendments were made. These are some of the things we'll be talking about in the coming days, maybe sometimes in the nearest possible future. Then let's look at the drama between November of 2009 and February of 2010, where Nigeria state governors had to urge the endorsement of Vice President Goodluck Jonathan before he could become the acting president. Nigeria's powerful regional governors urged the country's joint Congress to pass a resolution, and this happened on the 4th of February. It was first mentioned on the 4th of February 2010. To pass a resolution as early as the following week and endorse Vice President Goodluck Jonathan to become acting president following the non-availability of the then president and commander-in-chief, Umaru Yar'Adua. President Yar'Adua had been away for more than 2 months, receiving treatment for heart-related ailments at the time in an hospital in Saudi Arabia. The governors joined a growing number of Nigerians, including former heads of state, lawmakers, and the opposition, calling for Vice President Jonathan to take over as acting president. A member of the cabinet that very week, Dora Akunyili, had asked President Yaradua to hand over power to his deputy, at least in the interim, and that created a split among ministers who had, until that moment, given the ailing president their unanimous support. Foreign Minister at the time, Ojo Madueke, said ministers were very worried about Nigeria's difficulties, but assured that officials appointed by the president maintained their loyalty to the president. The 58-year-old president disappeared from public view since he flew to Saudi Arabia in November of 2009, prompting speculation on his condition, and ordinary Nigerians as well as major stakeholders had to call for a transfer of power to the vice president. The growing speculation over Mr. Yar'Adua's health at the time led Africa's most populous nation and largest energy producer to its most serious constitutional crisis in decades. The lawmakers eventually, on the 9th of February 2010, transmitted power to Vice President Jonathan to act in the capacity of president. Nigeria's Senate and House of Representatives both passed motions saying Vice President Jonathan shall henceforth discharge the functions of the office of the president and commander-in-chief of the Nigerian Armed Forces. Meanwhile, not all lawmakers agreed to the decision of making Vice President Jonathan acting president at the time. Senator Yakubu Garba Lado, who is from President Yar'Adua's home state of Katsina, questioned the rationale behind why Parliament could consider a radio interview as written notification by the president to transmit power to the vice president following his medical trip. Senator Lado said, by quoting the Constitution, and here him here, in quote, it is clearly said in section 145 that the president has to write that he is going on vacation. But I wonder how the distinguished senators will accept an interview that he granted, which of course a lot of Nigerians are even questioning whether that is his voice or not. End of quote. That's from Lado. Senator Lado also said the lawmakers had exceeded their powers. He said here in quotes, we refuse to consider that interview as a written something. So that will indicate there is some mischief behind it. I believe that it was wrong, and I know some Nigerians may decide to take us to court. And when we are challenged in a court of law, I believe we will be defeated because we do not have the power to do what we did today. That's from Lado. Well, politics is politics. Politics is politics anywhere. Anyhow you want to look at it. Well, that is it. So we knew what happened at that period. President Yar'Adua, who by every possible standard was a very, very distinguished gentleman, I must say that I'm saying it with every sense of responsibility, that President Yar'Adua was a distinguished man. And it was so sad that he eventually died. He died in May, and Goodluck Ebele Jonathan took over as President of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. May his soul continue to rest. There is one man that really had the interests of Nigerians at heart, looking at his policies and how he ensured that these policies are carried out. Even with his ailment, he made sure that he personally supervised some of the transformation that took shape at that period in Nigeria. May his soul rest in peace. On February 11th February 1977, the 20 naira note was introduced by the military regime of President Olusegun Obasanjo. The nation's then military leader unveiled the 20 naira note during a short but colorful ceremony. It was Nigeria's highest denomination at the time. General Murtala Mohammed, the nation's immediate past head of state, who was assassinated nearly a year earlier, was depicted on the new currency. The introduction of the 20 naira note was warmly welcomed by Nigerians due to their preference for cash transactions and the requirement for convenience while carrying cash. It must be on record too that at that time, Nigeria was one of the richest nations in the world. You count 5 richest nations in the world at that time, and you do not put the name Nigeria. You've not started. So that is how important we were, before the rest of the world at that time. But where are we now? Can we say the same of our situation today? Nigeria was even bankrolling European nations, other fellow African nations. You know, Nigeria was making life easier, for the rest of Africa. As I said it here last week, there was a time Nigeria could challenge United States. Nigeria will challenge United States, to a standstill, and the United States will keep quiet. Even before President Olusegun Obasanjo, uh, President Olusegun Obasanjo's strongly worded letter to his then friend, United States President Jimmy Carter, you know, on some issues that Nigeria refused to agree with the US. The previous head of state, before Murtala, Yakubu Gowon, was invited to the US 3 times, and 3 times he turned the US down. What was Yakubu Gowon's excuse? He told the United States government that he has a lot in his hands, so he needs to stay back home and work to reshape his country. 3 times, the United States invited Nigeria for a state visit. 3 times, Nigeria turned them down. Is that really possible today? Why? Because we were a powerful force in the politics of the world at that time. And I think the West knew that Nigeria was going to be something else in the possible future. There is the future that is our today. And they worked so hard to destabilize us. And look at where we are today. But who says a sleeping giant cannot stand again? Who said that? Well, we are still expecting to hear from you. The number to call, I think we have a caller now. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Hello?
Yeah, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
It's secure. Just want to talk on something you just hit the nerve when we were talking about how much we were respected in the Committee of Nations, in our early days. How much that, when I listened to one of Tafa Balewa's speech in the US, it was very outstanding. I love the man. I love his presentation very well. So, you were trying to allude to the fact that, our present role is connected with the West. The West actually plays a role in our woes as a nation today, because they cannot stand to see any nation, a black nation, that will rise, to challenge them. And the problem is that I know that you cannot defeat a nation without, insiders. So we had insiders, saboteurs, who actually colluded with them to bring us to where we are.
Okay.
But our people must also realize that what happens is that let's not always bring ourselves down, because a lot of our problem is not the West, it's not us only. The West contributes to what we are. Let's not always keep bashing ourselves and keep presenting ourselves and demarketing ourselves. The West, that is, they have some look at recently, Nigeria is among the number 6 country contributing to the GDP of the world. I guess we are coming back. And at this time around, we are white. Nobody will be able to pitch us against each other or make us to become, to be bitter about our nation, so that we don't care whatever happens to our nation. We're always demarketing it.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. K. Yeah, as at that time, the 20 naira note was the highest denomination in Nigeria. But I can't remember when I saw the 20 naira note last now. As a matter of fact, gradually 100 naira note is even disappearing. That's how bad it is. Well, let's leave national event and go internationally. On 11th February in 2011, as a fallout of the Arab Spring, the first wave of the Egyptian revolution culminated in the resignation of Hosni Mubarak and the transfer of power to the Supreme Military Council after 18 days of protest. The following chronological summary of major events took place during the 2011 Egyptian revolution right up to Hosni Mubarak's resignation as the 4th president of Egypt on 11th February 2011. From 1981 to 2011, Hosni Mubarak was in power under emergency law, with his son Gamal appearing to be a likely successor for the presidency. In December of 2010, protests in Tunisia, sparked by the death of Mohamed Bouazizi, turned into a revolution. The death of Khaled Said in June of 2000 peaceful, as pressure rose on Mubarak. The scale of the protests continued to grow, especially on specially organized Friday rallies. Mubarak initially gave concessions, including the dissolution of parliament, agreeing to oversee a process of reform, and promising not to run for re-election in September of 2011. The protesters, however, were not satisfied, and by February 8th, there were widespread calls for Mubarak's resignation. On the night of 10 February, Mubarak gave a speech in which it was expected he would step down. Anger erupted when he stated plans to merely delegate some of his powers. And the next day, 11 February 2011, he had effectively resigned. Now, let's look at the church. On February 11, 2013, the worldwide leader of the Catholic Church, Pope Benedict XVI, became the first pope. The then undisputed heavyweight champion Mike Tyson lost via knockout to the 42-1 underdog Buster Douglas. Going into the fight, Mike Tyson was the undefeated and undisputed heavyweight champion of the world. He held the WBC, WBA, and IBF titles. Despite the several controversies that marked Tyson's profile at the time, such as his abusive relationship with Robin Givens, the contractual battles between longtime manager Bill Caton and promoter Don King, and Tyson's departure from longtime trainer Kevin Rooney, Tyson was still dominant in the ring, scoring a 93-second knockout against Kyle the Truth Williams in his previous fight. Most considered this fight to be a warm-up bout for Tyson before meeting up with then undefeated number one heavyweight contender Evander Holyfield. Tyson was viewed as such a dominant heavyweight that he was not only viewed as the world's top heavyweight, but often as the number one fighter in the world pound for pound, rarity for heavyweights. Buster Douglas was ranked as the seventh heavyweight, number 7, by Ring Magazine, and had met with mixed success in his professional boxing career up to that point. His previous title fight was against Tony Tucker in 1987, in which he was TKO'd in the 10th round. However, a string of 6 successive wins gave him the opportunity to fight Tyson. In the time leading up to the fight, Douglas faced a number of setbacks, including the death of his mother, Lola Pearl, 23 days before the fight. Additionally, the mother of his son was facing a severe kidney ailment, and he had contracted the flu on the day before the day before the fight. From the beginning of the fight, it was apparent that Douglas was not afraid. He displayed a lot of spring and life in his body movement, and wasn't cautious in letting his punches fly whenever he saw the opportunity to attack Tyson. He used his quick and accurate jab to prevent Tyson from getting inside, where Tyson was most dangerous. When Tyson tried to get inside, Douglas tied him up, moved away, or would immediately hit Tyson with multiple punches as Tyson came within Douglas's range. Early on, Douglas was more agile than Tyson and outlanded Tyson in exchanges. After a lackluster and ineffectual third round, Tyson cornerman Jay Bright screamed at his fighter, "Don't just stand there and look at him. You've got to walk." Boxer Sugar Ray Leonard, at ringside doing commentary for HBO, noted Douglas's dominance with the jab and right hand, and said Tyson was having one of those occasional days in the ring where you just don't have it. Things just don't click. During the post-fight interview, Douglas broke down in tears when asked why he was able to win this fight when no one thought he could. "Because of my mother, God bless her heart," said the emotional new undisputed world heavyweight champion. Well, that's the situation. Well, uh, let's look at some other issues on ground. Yes, in 2012. Hello, good morning. Your name and where you're calling from?
Good morning, sir.
Yeah, good morning.
Good morning, Mr. Ferdinand. Yeah, my name is Mazi Okoro Okorafo. I'm calling from Blue Education Center Village in Anglo Just today. Thank God that today is Monday. Now, when you talk about those prominent Nigerians, talk about still remember people like the Tiger, the old boxer. In those days, when the Tiger entered the arena, the whole environment will be shaking. Now, you ask yourself, all those legends, people like the Tiger and the rest of them, what is happening now? Do Nigerians still remember them? I will tell. So that is why I used to tell people, anytime you are in this world, try and leave a legacy behind. People like the Tiger, them around, that's what they say, good game. But the people that Nigeria are saying, this dance house, they don't remember them. They just talk about the current digital sportsmen and women that is present. But they should do the needful. Still remember those people in those days. That is why today in history, the Tiger is also remembered. Good morning, my brother.
Yeah, thank you very much, Mazi Okora, for your contribution. The Tiger Ihetu is a name that no one can forget easily. One of the craftiest boxers that ever lived, the Tiger. There was also Ogambasi, Kid Ogambasi. So Nigeria at the time was always in the news for the right purposes. Yeah, we really do want to thank you for being part of the show this lovely morning. Tomorrow we'll try and have a guest where we'll discuss the man, Murtala Mohammed. Yeah, the program is an independent production. It's a production of History Desk TV Limited, as you're all aware, and it's still open to sponsorship. And for sponsorship details, you call Ayuba on 080-328-51135. We really do want to thank you for being part of the show today. On behalf of every member of the production crew, I am Mbum Ferdinand signing out. And don't forget, all our social media platforms are active. You can also get what we do there. Thank you very much. Join us again tomorrow, same time, 9 to 10 in the morning. We are out.